So I saw a very funny post on Twitter, and let me tell you what it was. Because on Twitter, folks be trying their hardest to be like white supremacists and stuff. They be trying, but I be clocking tea, okay? So this white person, they posted like a montage of clips from the movie Gone with the Wind. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, Gone with the Wind was initially a book about a little white girl, Scarlett O'Hara, who grew up in the antebellum South. Now, I believe the book starts when she's like 16 years old. She lives on this plantation called Terra. And life is great, right? Like, she's rich, she's going to balls and stuff. Oh, fiddle-dee-dee, okay? But as the story progresses, the Civil War begins. Eventually, black people are freed. And then, the second half or so of the book is about how Scarlett is out there working in fields because it ain't no black slaves no more, right? Now, I read that book a long time ago. I read that book in 7th grade. That was the year I got kicked out of school, and I had too much time on my hands. That's also the year that I became a YouTube troll, but that's another story for another day, right? My point is this. A lot of modern day white people look at Gone with the Wind as like their ultimate fantasy, right? Like, ooh, those were the good old days. We got to sit around talking about fiddle-dee-dee, old Rhett Butler, so-and-so. Black folks was doing all the work. Life was good, right? So this white person posted this, this collection of clips from Gone with the Wind, and they made the caption, was the Ethiopian food worth it? So clearly they're talking about, like non-white immigrants coming into America and ruining it, right? And there were a bunch of white people in the comments like, did we really have to free the blacks? So-and-so and so, like, yeah, like they didn't really need their freedom that bad. A bunch of whatever, right? And let me tell y'all why I think this is so particularly funny. Like I said, I read the book Gone with the Wind a long time ago, but I distinctly remember there being an overseer. So I just looked up overseer from Gone with the Wind. His name was Jonas Wilkerson or something, right? And I distinctly remember this dude being broke. And I don't remember the details because that was so long ago. Now, online, it says, Jonas Wilkerson, he was a Yankee sympathizer and yada, yada, yada. And he was super broke prior to the Civil War, which is why he was working as an overseer. But after the Civil War, he'd accrued a lot of wealth and so and so and so. And they said that he was actually killed by a KKK member because he'd given some speech talking about, blacks will be able to vote and marry white women and all this other stuff, right? But anyway, what I remember is this dude being broke. Like, he was broke as a joke on Hot Smoke, okay? Like, there was a whole shebang in the book that he was hunching on Emmy Slattery or whatever her name was. She got pregnant out of wedlock. Everybody was judging him even more. Now, mind you, back then, the whole purity culture, like, you ain't supposed to be hunching out of wedlock. So not Emily, her name was Emmy, I think. Emmy, she, again, was super broke and stuff. That's why she was even entertaining Jonas or whatever, right? But again, my point is this dude was broke. He was broke, all right? I'm saying that for a reason. White people, let's be for real. Talk to your family members. Talk to your grandparents, your great-grandparents. Look at the family memorabilia, all of that good stuff. And ask yourself, who were you and your family during slavery? Were you Scarlett O'Hara and Ashley Wilkerson and Melanie, whatever, Ashley's cousin, I forget her last name, right? Or were you the Jonas Wilkersons and the Emmy Slatterys? Like, can we have a reality check for a second here? We talk about how much money was made by white people during slavery. And don't get me wrong, it was a whole lot. And it was all types of white folks. It was white Americans, all the white folks in Europe, England, France, yada, 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 so and so and so. Like, when I went to the Museum of African American History and whatever it's called in DC, they actually said that there were some European countries that didn't even exist, prior to slavery. Like, they even started existing because of the money from slavery, right? That goes to tell you how much money was stolen from black people, okay? But this is not a complete conversation. That doesn't give us an actual accurate look at what was happening here, because that wealth was not evenly distributed, okay? So it's funny to see white people today envisioning themselves as the Scarlett O'Haras and the Rhett Butlers and, all the rich white folks who own these big plantations and are going to these dances and fiddle-dee-dee, But that's not actually a lot of y'all's reality. A lot of y'all were the Jonas Wilkersons and the Emmy Slatterys who had nothing, who lived in shacks and were foraging for fucking raccoons to fry up for dinner, right? Like let's tell the whole story. And actually, that's why a lot of y'all have so much beef with black people. Hold up, because I'm finna clock it. Now, y'all finna be like, Flower Shower, you just did the wrong movement with your hands. I know, baby, look, white people are watching. They studying us. They gonna start doing that thinking that's what black people actually do, and it's not. Look, I'm playing chess. Y'all playing checkers. Keep up, okay? But let's get back to the point, right? A lot of white people's biggest beef with black people is that they damn near neck and neck with us in their situations in this country. I've said before that white people need racism. It is a coping mechanism, because let's put yourself in the shoes of a white person, and let's say it's right before the Civil War. Slavery is still in effect, right? A poor white person, hold on, let me be specific. We're putting ourselves in the shoes of a poor white person prior to the Civil War. You have basically nothing. You live in a little shack. Again, you barely getting paid enough to get enough money to wipe your ass, right? And you're not doing that. You're filthy. You're disgusting, right? You foraging for fucking food in the woods, just like the black people. Guess who else was in the woods looking for nuts and berries and trying to snatch a raccoon off the street? The black slaves at the time, right? You damn near in the same predicament as the black slaves, right? But instead of being mad at the rich white people who have taken everything from you, the rich white people have convinced you that your situation is not that bad, because at least you're not a black person. At least you're not a slave, right? Like working for free and so on, so on. So you just barely a notch above them. So at least you got something, right? And a lot of white people have kept this mentality even in the present day. And that's why a lot of them have such a huge issue with seeing a black person who has more than them, because that challenges their belief that at least they're not a black person, right? At least they're above us in this respect, or so and so and so. And that challenges their sense of self-worth, because a lot of times, a lot of them will be like, well, I'm ugly and I'm stupid and I'm stank and I'm worthless, but at least I'm not a nigga though. So when they see a black person who is doing so much better than them, it's kind of like, wait a second, hold up. Now, keep yourself in the shoes of a poor white person and stick with me for a second, right? Imagine we are now a couple years after slavery. So black people have been freed now. Now you're competing for these low-wage, terrible jobs with black people, and you losing because those black people have a bunch of skills from slavery, right? We were blacksmiths and woodworkers and all this other stuff, right? And I mean, what do you have? Nothing but white skin. So realistically, I mean, don't get me wrong, racism is definitely a thing. Oh, absolutely. But in this case, I mean, from the perspective of a rich white person, let's be for real. You can get a skilled black person, right? And you can pay them a little less because they black. So who are you going to hire? The unskilled white person and pay them more because they white, or the skilled black person and pay them less because they black? I mean, come on. They're going to hire the skilled black people, right? So that built even more resentment. And that explains why every time black people built these, these flourishing towns in our own, because, white people insisted, oh, go back to Africa, nigga. We don't want to be around you. So we were like, okay, you know what? We're going to build our own little town, do our own little thing. And they were always succeeding. What happened? White people went and destroyed them, because not only did poor white people need for us to be lower than them to have any sense of self-worth, right? Because again, it doesn't really work when you like, oh, I'm poor and stupid and ugly and, but at least I'm not black and the black people are doing better than you. That don't really hit the same, right? But also, the rich white people need a permanent underclass. They need somebody to do the cheap work. They can't afford for black people to be self-functioning and doing well. It's time for a reality check. Friend, I'm telling you right now, look, y'all like to make fun of black people with the we was kings, so we came from African royalty. But baby, y'all do the same exact thing though. Y'all love to pretend that all of y'all came from the European royalty and you were the big plantation owners and enslavers and so on, so on, so. But you weren't, bitch. You were a peasant. You was in the street with the motherfucking black plague, goof. You were a fucking bum ass digging in a ditch for some raccoon or squirrel meat while the rich white people were off at a dance. Like, that's not you, friend. You on Twitter posting this for what? For what? You're posting the wrong montage. You showing Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler and them. Baby, show Emmy Slattery. Show Jonas Wilkerson. Show who your people's actually is. You want to know what's another funny thing? I used to have white people. They don't do it as much anymore, right? I used to have white people online talking about, oh, black Americans are the worst. They came from like the worst Africans, right? Like the thieves and so Africans would sell them to white people, blah, 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 right? White people were constantly saying this. And this is not true at all. Now, maybe, like, don't get me wrong. Maybe that did happen sometime. Maybe like somebody snatched somebody up for being a thief and was like, oh, sell them to the white folks. But that largely is not true. First of all, a lot of black Americans were, first of all, let's be serious, okay? And I'm not just saying this on no we was king stuff. A lot of us were descended from royalty and stuff. Like, there was one man, his name was something, it started with an A. It was like Ayuda Diallo, something. He was Muslim or something, right? He got snatched up by slave catchers and shipped to the United States, right? Now, of course, I'm not saying that was the majority or anything, but that did happen. And then a lot of times people were prisoners of war, right? Like, valiant warriors were fighting and they lost, and, you know, what happened, right? A lot of times people were tricked. Like, I spoke to an African man and he literally said, the people from my village, they were told, oh yeah, give us your strongest sons. We're going to take them to America and teach them this, that, so, and then we'll send them back. And they never saw them again, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm sure there were some thieves or something, right? But by and large, that is not what happened. It was a lot of normal people who were doctors and cooks and awesome members of society who were tricked into it. Like, when I went to the Whitney plantation, there's these big plaques that have firsthand accounts from the people who were enslaved on that plantation. And some of them were from West Africa and some were born in Louisiana, right? And there was this one plaque from a woman who was from West Africa. And she said, me and my mom were out walking and this white guy said, oh, come to my boat. I have gifts for you all. And that's the last time we ever saw our homeland. My point is this: the victims of transatlantic slavery were all types of people. They were warriors. They were mothers and daughters. They were sons. They were the, you know, the cooks, the witch doctors, whoever, whatever, right? For the most part, it was regular people, right? But when you look at the history of white people, y'all, like, there were literally, I think it happened twice. Somebody give me some details in the comments, right? Where white people shipped all of their prisoners and stuff to America and Australia. So yeah, white Americans and Australians literally are descended from the worst stock of white people. Like, quite literally, white people's jails were overflowing and they was like, let's send you to the New World to die, right? But that is not the case with black people in transatlantic slavery. But you notice that white people always try to push it onto us as a projection. And that junk is crazy to me. A lot of this shit that white people be trying to push onto black people be projections. I'm not even joking. And this is just one huge example. But white people will really sit here and tell you that you're not shit, right? And then they'll force their own story onto you. You telling me that I'm not shit because, oh, the Africans that were taken during transatlantic slavery were all thieves and so on, so on, so. But bitch, that's your story. That's your story. Your broke ass, raggedy ass, funky ass family was in jails in England because they trifling as fuck. You come from a whole lineage of bum ass, rat eating, bubonic plague having fucked up motherfuckers, right? But you tried to force that story onto me. That's them switcheroonies that I be talking about. White people always got a switcheroonie up their sleeve, bro. Let's be for real. Y'all posting montages from Going with the Wind, acting like you was the Scarlett O'Haras and the Rhett Butlers at the time. Bitch, you wasn't shit the same way you still not shit. And that's your beef with black people, because your only claim to sanity is the belief that even though you're worthless, you're still above a black person, and you reckoning with the fact that that is clearly not fucking true.